Sage Wonder coming at you from my van down by the river. It's early morning here, so sorry about the Oompa Loompa purple color. But that's what happens when I have no natural light and I have to use my stage lights. So just pretend I'm talking between songs at a rock concert. So, everybody's talking about what to do about all of these school shootings. Well, I've looked at it pretty closely, and here's what I figure you can do. There are three potential options of what we can do. We can do the first option, which is what we've been doing all along, which is nothing. We can continue to do nothing and hope that it just goes away. I don't think that's very smart. I don't think it's going away. Option number one is not an option at all. That leads us to the other option, option number two, that everyone is talking about. Option number two is take all the guns away. Well, there's a big problem with number two. That is all of the gun owners and all of the patriots and all of the liberals, conservatives, and libertarians who believe the Second Amendment is a God-given right. You think liberals believe that? Sure, there's some liberals coming around. As they look at their options about changing the government here, they're starting to like the Second Amendment a little more, and they're arming themselves too. The Second Amendment is older than the United States, that it's based in common law. And this common law of the right to keep and bear arms actually predates firearms. Firearms were, later invention. That the right to keep and bear arms goes all the way back to sword days, to bow and arrow days. You know, there's an old saying in America that God created humans and Samuel Colt made them equal. Arms, whether they be pepper spray, knives, swords, guns, they all serve the purpose to make sure that the weak are not ruled by the strong. Before there were arms, before there were firearms in particular, it was the world was ruled and the rules made by the people that were the biggest, the strongest, the toughest, the youngest, the fastest, and that the old and weak had no choice but to submit. That the young and weak had no choice but to submit to whatever foul treatment the bullies wanted to issue them. So, firearms are an anti-rape device. Firearms are an anti-bullying device. Firearms are an anti-slavery device. Firearms are anti-victimization device. They're what make things equal. Without firearms, you have bullies running amok. And you're going to say, Sage, that's not true. Other countries don't have guns and they do just fine. You know, everyone says America is number one in gun violence. Probably right. Look at the statistics. Because we have all the guns. But we're not number one in violence. Look at those numbers. That nearly every other civilized country in the world has more violence and more murder than the United States. That the United States may be number one in gun violence, but it's not number one in murder. It's not number one in violence. Other countries have more violence per capita, more murders per capita. That means per the population, than the United States does. In fact, it's the possession of firearms that prevents us from being higher in murder rate, higher in violence rate, higher in rape rates than we already are. That it is the personally owned firearm that keeps the peace in the United States. And though you may feel unsafe when you see all this stuff about mass shootings, but even when you figure in the mass shootings, it is still safer to walk down the streets in any city in the United States than it is to walk down the street in London or Paris. Look up the numbers. I'm challenging you. If I'm wrong, hey, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I checked these numbers. I'll be honest. But when I checked them a couple of years ago, America was one of the safer countries when it comes to violent crimes. Don't look at gun violence statistics. Those are ridiculous because you can't be higher in gun violence if you don't have guns. We're higher in gun violence because we have guns. If you go to take away our guns, we, gun owners, will take it personally. And we will tell you, all of us who know about this will tell you, our right to own firearms, knives, swords, mace, whatever, is inherently given to us by God. It is the right of self-defense. The right of self-defense is what we're talking about here. You want to take away the gun, what you really want to do is take away my ability to defend myself from bullies. It makes me rely on the graciousness of others for my safety. It makes me a serf and not a citizen. It makes me a peasant, an unarmed peasant. A gun makes me a knight, a defender of the weak, a defender of the innocent, a defender of myself. This is why option number two right there, if you get my drift, read between the lines, is a big F you to America. It will tear our country apart. We will go to war over this topic because this topic is older than the United States. The Second Amendment simply reaffirms the God-given natural right for self-defense. And the right to keep and bear arms is the core of self-defense. Because what am I going to defend myself with? A frying pan? Well, that's great if you're 6'4" and 250. But, you know, if you're 5'2" and 90 pounds and bent over and walk with a cane, a pistol is the only thing that's going to keep you safe when push comes to shove. So, what is another option? What is option number 3? Option number 3, we just need to skip past number 1, which we can all agree is stupid. Doing nothing is not working. Option number 2 is disastrous. Stop pushing for it. You're just going to end up with the worst violent phase in American history. We'll make the last Civil War look like nothing because we have repeating firearms now and everyone's got them. So, what is option 3? Option 3 is to do what should have been done 20 years ago. To do what surely should have been done after Columbine, should have been done after every one of these school shootings. Arm the staff. The answer, we've been telling you all along, you stupid liberals. The answer is not less guns. The answer is more guns. An armed society is a polite society. Swiss citizens are required to own machine guns and keep them in their house with lots of ammo. They have very, very, very low crime rates. There is no home invasion in Switzerland. These mass shootings aren't happening in Switzerland because 14 people will pull out a gun and shoot you before you can get 2 rounds off. This is why this kind of stuff went way down in the state of Texas. You got an attempt at an attack from terrorists. In I don't know if it's Houston or Dallas. If you remember, there was the cartoon contest to draw the cartoon of Muhammad, and there was an event that was just basically to make the Islamists mad, and they attacked, and of course a off-duty policeman who was working as a security guard there shot and killed the terrorists before they could get into the event. That this kind of stuff doesn't work where people are armed. I hate to sound like a cliche, but the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So, arm the teachers, arm the staff, put armed guards in the school. Skip past option 1 and option 2, and let's go straight to option 3, members of the left, the thing that we can both agree on, that the real logistical way to prevent these kind of school shootings is to arm our teachers. Are you afraid of our teachers? If you are, you should have more screening to do with teachers because you're putting your children in their hands. So if you don't trust them to take care of your kids, then you shouldn't, if you don't trust them with a gun, you shouldn't trust them to take care of your kids. Train them, arm the principal, or put armed guards at the school. Trained men with guns. Furthermore, as a gun owner, I can testify that if you make the law concrete enough, that I will sign off on letting you tax my guns and ammo for the sole purpose of arming our school teachers and putting armed guards and metal detectors and whatever you need to do in a school. Seriously, I will pay the tax to pay for it every time I buy a gun, every time I buy a box of ammo. If you'll guarantee me with the writing of the bill so it's ironclad that this won't be used for any other thing than for the purpose of school security. This is the solution that works. You keep harping about guns, all you're going to get is a civil war that you will lose since you don't have any guns and we do. Don't start it. Don't go there. You're being a bully trying to take my gun away. You are. You're being a bully. You're going to get a war because that right is a human right. It is not a right given by the government. Even if you manage to get 2/3 of the people to agree to get rid of the Second Amendment, it doesn't matter because you don't have the power to get rid of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is God-given. In other words, it's an inalienable human right. I have the right to self-defense. You don't have the right to say, oh, no, you don't. Then let's fight over it, and let's do it while I still have my gun. So, let's work on a real solution. Solution number 3. Solution number 3 works. It will stop these things. It will slow them to a trickle. It will end this cycle. Or we can just agree to continue doing what we've been doing with option number 1, which is absolutely nothing. God save our republic.